All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Matheus Alencar. I am a developer for Claros, and I'm currently working on Generalized Token Curated Registries. So in this talk, I will explain a little bit what that is and how we can use it to fight corruption, fake news, and do a lot more with it for the Web3. So the question that Generalized Token Curated List wants to answer is, how can we fact check claims without using reputation? So this is very abstract. What do I mean by claims? This can be really anything about any item on a list app. So for an example, if you publish a video on YouTube, you're making a claim that that video adheres to some criteria and it adheres to the policies of the platform. If you publish something on Twitter or on Facebook, you're also making a claim that that content you published adheres to some criteria of the platform. So how can we fact check that any claim, whether it is fake news or if it's a true news, without resorting to some authority, some centralized party that says, okay, this is good or this is bad, so we will remove it. And this is very important because now we are entering the information area, which is, well, we're not entering it, but we are in an information area which is also a false claims area. So we can get like fake news everywhere. We get people exaggerating stuff about coronavirus or underestimating stuff about coronavirus. We have a very difficult time figuring out what is true and what's not. So some claims that we hear, perhaps in your country you have some politicians saying, oh, I've never been involved with corruption. Or some newspapers saying, oh, we never publish fake news. We are an eco-friendly company. This tweet or this publication is hate speech. This token is not a scam. It's legit. Please list it on my exchange. Or we should be more or less worried about the coronavirus. Also, the apps also need to find out what the truth is. So does anybody remember when MetaMask was removed from the Play Store? That's a claim. MetaMask claims that it's a legit app and that it does not violate the policies, but it was removed. So what if we could make a decentralized app store that answers that question in a decentralized and unbiased manner? DEXs, Uniswap, for an example, had a sort of centralized way to list its tokens. So you had to make a pull request requesting, oh, this is my token. It's legit, it's not a scam, please put it on the platform, and it was very annoying. So how can we decentralize the listing process of tokens? And also on Gitcoin. Recently, we had the first disputes coming up on Gitcoin on whether some grant requests were public goods or not, whether they should be receiving. Maybe we can integrate Gitcoin and say, oh, I claim that this is a legit project and that it's available, it should receive some grant. So we want to move from a place of uncertainty, unorganized, obscure claims, to a place of clear, organized information. And that's the objective of the Generalized Token Curated List. So do we have any battle-tested solutions? And I would say that yes, we have an experiment. And also, I will stop right now. Does anybody here know what the Token Curated List is? Not the Claros team? All right, I will explain it shortly, what it is. So the Token Curated List is a project that Claros developed in 2019 to solve precisely the problem of curation of tokens. So the blockchain space needs to know what tokens are frauds and what are not scams, what is legit and what's not. So we created this app that plugs into Claros to figure that out in a crowdsourced manner. So we wanted to move from a place where anyone could publish a token, but only a few would get accepted into the registry. And this is what we came up with. This is the token curated list as it looks like right now. It has some 396 submissions. And it also has badges, which is another token curated list to attest some particular information about a token. For example, does this token comply with the ARC20 standard? Does it comply with the listing criteria of some exchange? And it works a little bit like this. The token curated list is important because the protocol is the same that we will use in the generalized TCR. So it works like this. Anyone can come and say, look, I want my token to be listed on Uniswap.ninja. So I make a submission of my token with a deposit. And it stays in a challenge period during some days, some hours, where anyone from the community can go and scrutinize it. They can look if the address is correct, if the name is correct, if the code has some vulnerability maybe. And if it's not, it will pass the challenge period and it will be accepted in the registry. And then Alice gets her deposit back. However, if Alice submits some incorrect token, let's say she claims that this is the Omisego token, then Bob, wanting to make some money, can come and say, look, I put also a deposit on this contract claiming that this token is a fraud or it's incorrect. This creates a dispute which will be resolved by Claros. So the jurors will come, they will analyze the evidence, they will analyze the policies of the listing, and if Bob is correct, the token will be rejected and he will take Alice's deposit as a reward. And this is just an interesting case. This has been going, as I mentioned, for a year. So someone made a submission for a token called Bearchain. They wanted to be listed at the EthFinex exchange, now Diversify. And one of, someone, we don't know who that is, actually investigated it very deeply. And they found out that the CTO mentioned in the white paper was a member of a group that did not exist in Oxford University. So they actually emailed the director and said, look, is this person member of this group, of the group that sounded the most closest to what the submitter said? And the director said, no, there's no one with his name here. Furthermore, the challenger noticed that after the challenge happened, they made modifications to the English version of the PDF and also submitted that as evidence. So he won the case and took the bounty of some tens or 20 ETH from the submitter. And the nice thing about token created registries is that once they are built on a public blockchain, anyone can just plug it in. So we made a fork of Uniswap, it's called Uniswap La Ninja, that plugs into the token created list, and so anyone can trade tokens there without having to go with the traditional pull request to Git and ask for a centralized party to list it. Just make a submission of an honest token, it will go through the challenge period, and it will make it. And the same thing was done with the Dutch exchange. So this had a sort of centralized listing process, but ever since then it was forked, and now it just plugs into the TCR. So instantly it has hundreds of tokens available to trade. So far, as of 2 weeks ago, the TCR has moved around some $500,000 passed through it, of people trying to make claims and challenges. And that brought us the question, can we reuse this recipe for something else? And I think that yes. And an example that I want to give is about Brazil. So Brazil is famously known for having a lot of corruption. And so we passed a law, which was surprising to find out that this was not in place yet, but it's the Clean Slate Law, which prevented convicted politicians from trying to participate in elections again. So can we go ahead and do more than that? So there were some centralized attempts at doing curation of politicians, and check facts about what they claim. But there's always accusation of, oh, this platform is biased for the left or for the right or up and down or whatever. So it's not good enough. What if we could make a generalized TCR of politicians? What if we could make badges for these politicians and say, look, this is a list of politicians who are crypto-friendly. This is a list of politicians who don't care about the environment or this and that. And someone could just open an app and just very quickly check if the politician keeps his word after he's elected. What about ethical companies? People want to know if some company uses slave labor, but that's very hard to find out. Or maybe if the company is eco-friendly. Oh, does this company publish some bogus papers on environmental impact? Maybe we can do something like this. So what does ethical mean? We can check the policies, you could get involved in governance. Maybe you disagree with some item, so you can challenge it to make some money. How about content curation? Videos also make claims about their content. So when we get decentralized incentivized storage, people are going to start building YouTubes and decentralized YouTubes. And they will need content curation because since the storage will be persistent and very resistant to censorship, we will need to find out what is okay for children to watch or what is okay for just regular people to watch. So we will need content creation for that. Bam, you created one very quickly. Video play. So maybe you just are worried about censorship. So do you think YouTube is biased on its policies? Do you think Patreon has delisted some participants? Yeah. Maybe we can do better than that then. Content addressing. So again, when it comes to decentralized storage, we will need some way to find content on the Web3. And an interesting use case that appeared during development is that of torrents. So you may have followed BitTorrent or some website for hosting torrent magnet links. There's always this cat and mouse fight that happens where the FBI tries to bring down the website. Well, what if we put the torrent magnets in the blockchain? With a TCR, we can make a claim about the torrent, say, look, I claim that this magnet link is about this open source movie and it has no viruses. And then you can go and check it, and if it has a virus, you can take the deposits of the submitter. So we can create a very strong, resistant torrent registry. And the same thing for app stores. So maybe we don't want to trust the Apple Store, or we maybe don't want to trust a Play Store anymore. So we can create a dApp store for dApps, and you know their address. You don't have to trust the DNS. You can just put the link to IPFS or Swarm, and it will stay there. So the downside of building TCRs for each applications is that it's very costly. For the TCR, it took quite a long time, some 8 months to build it, and among learning everything, the incentives. Maybe we can create a factory. Maybe we can create something that allows anyone to choose the fields needed for a TCR. Enter generalized TCRs. So we made this app, which we've been showing screenshots from now. And it's a TCR Factory. So anyone can come and choose the parameters of it. You can choose the name of the TCR, what fields it has. Maybe it has 4 text fields, 1 video field, 1 image field. You can choose the parameters for the deposit, the economic incentives, the rewards for challenging successfully an item. And you can even choose the arbitrator. You don't have to use Claros. You can use some centralized party if you need to. So I will make a little demo. Let's see if it works now. How long do I have?
41. When you finish at 50.
Yeah. Okay, so this keyboard is. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I need some help. This is supposed to be a dash. So you can type it.
You want?
Yeah.
You want to?
gtcr-dev.netlify.com.
GTCR dash
Yeah.
dash.
Oh, you can just use it.
Yeah.
Minus.
Yeah.
Minus. N.
Dev, D-E-V, .netlify.com.
Dot.
Like here. Yeah. F1.com.
Come.
Yeah. No, it's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can check it out if you want as well, and you don't need a wallet to view it. It won't ask you for a MetaMask something. So this is running on Colvan network right now, and something that I want to show. This is a TCR that a member of the community created while helping me test it. He made a supercar created list, and he made a couple of submissions, and let's see one of them. Okay, so something interesting about token created lists is that you can link them together if you think that the content is relevant. So if you have some politician, it would be nice to know whether the same politician is present at the corrupt politician's TCR or the honest politician's TCR. So what he did is he submitted the same car to this TCR and also to a TCR called Green Businesses List. So you can add badges to it, and when you connect it, it will show up down here. And all this is done completely decentralized because the listing process of which badges are connected is also done with the TCR. So I will actually open the time for questions now, if anyone wants.
So just a quick succession of questions. So first of all, has it ever been used in practice? So TCRs have been around for like 2 years now, and there's a lot of talk about them. But I'm wondering if there's any that is backed by substantial value and reputation, and people are actually using it. That's first question. And the second one is that all the TCRs that I've seen proposed, they kind of rely on the fact that somebody wants to get onto that list. So having like negative reputation in a TCR doesn't sound like the incentives are going to work. And the third one is that if you are like if you're mixing TCRs with reputation, aren't you concerned that it will become like a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like if you brand somebody a criminal, they no longer have an incentive not to be one. That's it.
Okay, yeah, I'll answer one at a time. So on the adoption of the TCRs, actually has been used, and the one that has been mostly used, I think it's the one we implemented, which is the Token 2 Curated List. So far it moved $500,000, which is decent. And also continuing on the incentives, it will really depend on what TCR you're building for people to want to be part of it. So in the case of the T2CR, the incentives for people to want to, or tokens to be want a part of it, is that they get listed on exchanges. So for the T2CR, if some project wants to participate and wants to be listed on Diversify or actually on EthFinex, they would want to submit it, and they did. So there's a bunch of submissions there. So for that use case, I think there was adoption. Now, there is an argument to be made that some TCRs will just not work without some intrinsic incentive to be part of it. So what we could do is have a DAO that we can plug into it. So any successful submissions, someone can be earn some reward. So learning what politicians are corrupt or learning what articles are fake news or not is a public good. So maybe people are willing to put, say, $1,000 in a DAO, and anyone who makes the correct submissions to a TCR of corrupt politicians can withdraw some money from that as a reward. But yeah, this is like the incentives is a per TCR thing that we have to analyze. And the third question, what was it? Sorry.
So whether mixing reputation.
Oh yeah. So the idea actually of the TCR is to not have reputation. This is the difference between this and a traditional TCR, is that this is an arbitrable TCR. So you can make submissions, but if there is a dispute, it's not just some token vote. It's Claros that will resolve the dispute in general by default. But in the case of like for example TCR of criminals, yeah, I mean, maybe that's not a good idea to create a TCR of criminals. Maybe there are many applications which are not a good idea to make. Like someone will create a torrent registry of illegal content, for example. But we think that in general, it is good to have an infrastructure that accepts everything and it's censorship resistant. And then we just curate the content on the client level or on the TCR level. Any more questions?
Can you use this for social reputation or social, let's say, social money?
Well, you could theory. I don't know if it's a good idea. There was like a submission or an idea for a TCR of saying, oh, let's make a TCR of people that bullshit on Twitter. And then someone can make a submission there and just people will get mad. and people will try to defend themselves and say, look, I don't say that much bullshit, and people will start posting tweets claiming one thing or another. But is that a good idea? I don't know. You can create that TCR if you want, but
What is the best use case for this kind of thing?
so the one that I like the most right now is fake news detection. So we could create a TCR of news articles, and then we can have like a trusted source of information. So anyone could go to a website like this and say, look, I know all of these articles are fake news free because they passed through a challenge period of deposits. So that's my favorite one. We can have like
Because you're giving money, you're giving power to the people that have money, right?
how?
Because they're the ones that are putting some stake in order to be in the list, right?
Yeah.
And so aren't
I mean,
Yeah, but the
oh, okay,
challenger-
okay.
the challenger is also also has money, right? So doesn't have to.
It could be crowdfunded.
Sorry.
It could be crowdfunded as well, potentially by the community if they believe that this submission is just completely wrong. They can also crowdfund it between themselves, smaller amounts, and take the reward split between themselves as well. It doesn't have to be one-on-one necessarily.
Okay.
Does the challenger have to put the same amount of money as or like is there like a fixed kind of price to
It's not the same. It doesn't have to be the same. It can be the same, but it doesn't have to.
Okay.
And yes, I think I understand what you're saying, because to be a part of the list, of some list, you have to make some deposit.
Yeah.
So the higher the deposit, the more people will trust it because there's more money at stake. But I actually think this is fine. I think it would be very nice if we have like some, you want to publish some article here, is $1,000, and then Forbes or BBC, if they want to publish it there, they have to put that deposit, and then anyone in the community can come and look, there's a fake news right here, I put the challenge, and then they lose it. So
I mean,
I
the higher
think-
the deposit, the higher the incentive for people to verify
yeah,
it's fake,
absolutely.
right?
And who decides? Is it the whole community who decides, or like who is like the one that makes a decision at the end?
For the prices or for the ruling on whether it depends on the TCR, but if by default this UI creates the arbitrator as Kleros. So if Kleros gives a ruling that it should not belong on the list, it will be rejected and it will send the funds to whoever won the challenge, basically.
So it means that you have to have Kleros tokens in order to.
No. For arbitrable depths on Kleros, you just need ETH. Kleros tokens is just for who are the jurors that are participating in the arbitrator side of the application.
Okay.
So if you want to be a juror, you have to stake tokens. In case you make some bad ruling, you lose them.
And that's my question. Don't you think that by allowing this, then we're allowing anyone to become a juror? Because if you have enough money, you can become a juror.
Yeah, anyone can be a juror. But just because you're a juror, it doesn't mean that you're gonna earn money or rule correctly. Because if you're a whale and you stake a lot of money, so you're selected as a juror, and you give some incorrect ruling, people can appeal that ruling. And not only will not have your ruling be accepted, you also lose a lot of PNK. Because it gets distributed among the current jurors.
The voting power is not linked to the amount of tokens you stake.
It's not just a coin vote.
Your
So
chance of being selected as a juror increases with the amount of tokens you stake, but when the voting is not proportional, it's one by one. And there is a verification, a KYC, or like how
No.
do you prevent that a person doesn't have 2 or 3 or 5 accounts or multiple accounts?
What happens is like it's proportional to the total amount of tokens he has at stake. So if he splits, he has 5 different accounts. The chances are the same if he moves the funds to one single account.
But you said before that
To be selected to be a juror, once the jury is formed, each address has one voting power.
What he means is you could have the multiple addresses. You could have multiple addresses, which like behind. You say you have 100 addresses, and you have one big organization which is behind this 100 addresses, and they all put like lots of amount of stake on all of those addresses, and they could end up like I don't know how many people are in the first vote, but you could end up with a situation where the majority is all the same organization, right? I mean, behind the curtains.
Yeah. Actually, just to make a correction, the same address can be selected multiple times if you have a bunch of tokens. So it's just that after a certain point, it becomes very unlikely that you can 51% attack the system. Because your tokens are locked at some point, and then in the next round of appeals, there's an even bigger number of jurors that will be selected, and you have to keep buying more and more BNK to be able to outpace the like the other jurors.
Cost of attack, like it grows, it's non-linear. It's like grows faster than what you actually can get.
It's exponential. Every time we appeal, number of jurors drawn, it's doubled up.
What's the batch of the first jurors? How many jurors? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm more familiar with Arrogant Court and not with Claris, but it's super interesting. So
it's the same.
Okay.
It's a fork. It's a Claris fork.
Okay, perfect. So I'm super familiar with what you guys do. It's amazing. Thanks.
Do we have time?
Last question. So in theory, I could put up, I could go on this, I could put up a decentralized Pirate Bay tomorrow.
You can, yeah.
Like just in theory,
Just for any ideas, yeah. Yeah, you can, and also you can create like a torrent registry of malware-free torrents, which is an interesting use case as well. So this is on Coven. You can play around with it if you want at that address.
So thank you.
Thanks.
We are.